Well, good morning. I hope everyone is doing well this morning and past hump day, so we're on the back side of the week. This morning I want to start off and read from Mark again, and this time we're going to read chapter 14, verse 26 through 42. It says, "And when they'd sung a hymn, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Jesus said to them, 'You will all fall away, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered. But after I'm raised up, I will go before you to Galilee.' Peter said to him, 'Even though they all fall away, I will not.' And Jesus said to him, 'Truly I tell you, this very night before the rooster crows twice, you will deny me 3 times. But he said emphatically, 'If I must die with you, I will not deny you.' And they all said the same. And they went to a place called Gethsemane. And he said to his disciples, 'Sit here while I pray.' And he took with him Peter and James and John, and he began to be greatly distressed and troubled. And he said to them, 'My soul is very sorrowful, even to death. Remain here and watch.' And going a little further, he fell on the ground and prayed that, if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. And he said, 'Abba, Father, all things are possible for you. Remove this cup from me. Yet not what I will, but what you will.' And he came and found them sleeping. And he said to Peter, 'Simon, are you asleep? Could you not watch 1 hour? Watch and pray that you may not enter into temptation. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak.' And again he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to answer him. And he came the 3rd time and said to them, 'Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? It is enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Rise, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand.'" You ever had to wait for something that you knew was not going to go well from you? Maybe it happens, when you're a kid, right? That you do something at home that's wrong and your mother says, "Well, just wait till your father gets home and sorts you out." Or perhaps you're waiting for that dreaded school report to come, and in that report, that your school marks are just not as good as they probably should be. Or maybe there's been an issue at school with your behaviour and you were caught doing something that maybe you shouldn't be doing. Or could be, you remember, I don't know if you've seen that film, The Sandlot, right? And Smalls borrows his stepdad's baseball, and it gets whacked over into the beast's back garden, and he's dreading having to go home and tell his stepdad about it. There are a number of things, even as an adult. Maybe you have a meeting with your boss in the morning, and you've been missing your work targets, and you haven't been meeting your goals, and something slipped past you that shouldn't have. Or you've been to the doctor, and the doctor was a bit suspicious about something she saw, and they got a scan, and then you just heard on the phone that she wants you to come in and see her. Those are just kind of a few scenarios of sitting and waiting for something that we know is coming down the road towards us. Plenty of more scenarios I'm sure we could pick for, as we're kind of just waiting for the hammer to fall. And when we're waiting in those situations, we try and find solace, don't we? That, well, maybe it's not quite as bad as we think it's going to be. Maybe Dad will come home and he's going to be in a good mood, and, he'll just see it's a bit of a funny thing, and maybe I'll just be grounded for a week. Or maybe when my boss hears about what's been going on at home, and my husband's sick, and, I've got a kid struggling at school, and that she will just understand about what's happening and, just give me a warning. Or maybe the scan isn't quite as bad as I'm thinking it's going to be. And when the doctor, when she rang to talk to me, the tone of the voice, I just misread it, and she's just suffering from allergies. It's not a reflection of my condition. And that's really kind of how Peter's attitude was, right? Because Jesus had been talking about how bad it was going to be, that the Son of Man was going to be taken and he was going to be mocked and he was going to suffer condemnation and death. And Peter's going, really? You know, I've been with Jesus and he does all these miraculous things. He's always in control of all the situations, and it can't possibly be as bad as what he says it's going to be. And all the other disciples, they agree with Peter's assessment as well. And besides, Peter said that he wouldn't allow it to be that bad. But Jesus knew exactly how bad it was going to be. Jesus was not hoping that maybe things might turn out better than he was thinking it was going to be. He was not thinking, oh, well, perhaps, it won't be quite as terrible as I think it's going to be. Maybe I'll escape with less. No, he knew exactly how it was going to be. Even if those around him didn't understand it and they thought it was going to be all right, he knew it wasn't going to be all right. Again, going back to that film, The Sandlot, you remember that so Smalls, he borrows that ball from his stepdad and it gets whacked over into the back garden of the Beast, and they're telling Smalls, oh, it's going to be all right, it's going to be all right, and he says, well, it's not, because it was signed by some famous person, and eventually they get down to the fact that it was signed by Babe Ruth, and when the rest of his mates find out that, they told Smalls, oh, you're a dead man. And Jesus is God, and to God, sin is unacceptable. It's as unacceptable to Jesus as it is to the Father. Sometimes, I don't know, we seem to miss that point. Well, we think that it's unacceptable to the Father, but somehow Jesus lets it slide. Well, Jesus does not let it slide, because he is God. There is absolutely no difference in how they see the seriousness of sin and the consequences that sin brings. And God has judged our sin. And what is sin exactly? Well, sin is doing life our way instead of God's way. And God judges it fairly, but he judges it severely. There are no mitigating circumstances. It doesn't depend whether God is in a good mood or not. He's not like our dad or mum or boss or even doctor. He judges absolutely fairly, because he is God. He judges righteously. And that's why Jesus pleaded with his Father that maybe there was some other way, because he knew what was in the cup. He knew what was coming his way. He knew what the standard was, because his Father's standard is Jesus' standard. And Jesus also knew that the only way to take away the consequences of our sin that would fall on us was for him to take our place. As the Apostle Paul says in 2 Corinthians, he says, for our sake he made him to be sin who knew no sin, so that in him we might become the righteousness of God. Jesus, the perfect Son of God, was going to become sin for us so that we could become righteous. There was going to be a swap, if you like. Jesus knew exactly what he was going to face, but he wasn't going to face it for himself. He was going to face it for us. So today, let's watch and stay awake with Jesus and thank Jesus for what he's done, that we can live our lives free of having to wait anxiously, wondering what God's judgment is going to be like. Because we already know what God's judgment is like, but we won't have to face it because Jesus took our place. All right, have a wonderful Thursday, and I will be here tomorrow with the last one of our morning devotions. Bye-bye.